Hey guys, welcome back to more I Do Work Here Lady stories. In this video, an insane customer claimed that women cannot own businesses and slapped me in my own store, not realizing that I am the owner of the entire company. Let's dive right into the video. So I managed to do something extremely difficult in the area that I live and become a female business owner. In my part of Pakistan, you find very old traditions and gender roles taking place all around and usually at the expense of women. We are brought up mostly to think that we cannot go get an education or get a job aside from a few that are considered acceptable for women. That our role is to get married and have children for our husbands. I was lucky though that my parents were not as conservative and allowed me to have some more freedom and be able to do things that I wanted. They even helped me get some of the money I needed in order to start my business. Now my store is not anything special and it's basically just a run-of-the-mill clothing store, but I still love it. I have a few employees, but I find myself in store on a daily basis doing everything from checking out customers to stocking the shelves. Now the usual here might be women working at a clothing store, but the owner and managers being men that mostly sit around and make a profit while paying as little as possible. So then I actually made it a point to hire only females because I knew the possibility of any male employee thinking he was above women. Plus it's much easier for them to get jobs anyway. A woman walks into the store and after a while I could tell when I see a problem customer. She walked like she had money and an attitude that said she was better than everybody else. I'm going to just call her Karen, because while she did not have the typical white Karen features, she was the Pakistani equivalent to one. She walked in and started acting like she was the queen of the universe and ignoring any manners or common courtesy, not being gentle with the displays and ruining every single one that she came across as her idea of browsing. Finally, she opened her mouth and I really wished that she hadn't and just walked out of the store instead. Karen, you! She pointed at me and gestured that I come over. I tried to be polite and have good customer service in mind. Me, yes, how can I help you today? Karen, nobody offered me anything to drink yet. I'll have a cup of tea while I look around the shop. Me, I'm sorry, but we don't have any drinks. Karen, lazy. Well, why don't you just bring me a catalog of items so I don't need to waste my time walking around the store? Me, we don't have that either. If you're worried about carrying too many things, we can hold items behind the counter for you. Karen, unacceptable. You wanna treat a good customer like garbage and lose out on my money, huh? I will let you know that I've spent thousands here. I was getting tired of her and my patience was wearing thin, so I said, I've never seen you here before. Karen, then you must be new. That would explain being a bad employee. Me, actually I'm the owner here and you would know. Karen laughed off my comment and she then told me that low-class women like you cannot own businesses, and continued to walk around the store being rude to everybody and insulting every single clothing item that we had for sale. Why she didn't leave, I had no idea, but I was finally done when she started to tell other customers flat out lies about her knowing the owner of the company and how he only cares about money. I told her to get out of my store and not to come back again. Karen was furious though and told me that she wanted to speak to the owner right now. Not believing that I was in fact the owner. She also wanted to speak to a manager, again annoyed to find that it was a woman. She started calling me a liar and a fraud because a woman was apparently not able to own a business, talking about how I would not know how to handle the finances and female-owned businesses would close in a heartbeat. I was a little upset because she was putting down her own gender and not even seeing the issue with it. On the other hand, she was causing big problems by starting this fight in the middle of my store. She refused to leave though and started intentionally making a mess and throwing clothing items around. The final straw being that she put her hands on me by slapping me in the face and calling me a disgrace to women, and no man would wanna have his kids with me. I of course then called the police and she seemed pleased about it, claiming she would get me in trouble for lying about being the owner of this store. The police got there and she started lying again, saying the company was owned by her cousin and that I was just an employee and did not have the right to claim that I owned it or that I could kick her out. I had paperwork on property that was basically permits for the business all with my name on them as the owner, plus every employee in the store vouching that I was indeed the person at the top of the flagpole. My employees also all backed up the fact that she had slapped me, and Karen was now backtracking to try and change her story. She was now claiming that she came to the shop and I started to harass her and make her feel fear for her life, even claiming that I had a weapon and was gonna hurt her, so the slap was just self-defense. I had video cameras in the store thankfully and pulled the footage to show the police what really happened here. They looked over it and agreed that Karen had assaulted me, and all I did was to try to get her to leave my store after she was causing a problem. Now she was screaming that I needed to be arrested too, because if I was the owner of the business, that meant it was magically illegal. For this, I don't know if she was making things up or actually believed it. The gender roles are so ingrained in people here that they don't always realize that something being frowned upon does not mean it's against the law. I know in some places though that legally women cannot own property or businesses. This is not the case where I live though, and I'm allowed to have the business. The police tried to tell this to Karen, but she was calling them names now and saying that they were covering for me because I must pay them off. Again, not true. A lot of police can be bribed here, but I have no reason to even try to bribe any. She was then taken into police custody and all but dragged out of my store. I had a ton of things to clean up, but the police wanted me to go down to the station and fill out some paperwork about the incident. When I got there, I was wondering what was gonna happen to Karen and asked them, and they told me she was getting assault charges against her, but since her family had money, she was probably not going to prison or anything like that. That was a bit disappointing, but at least she was gonna be held and treated like a prisoner until her husband came to get her and pay some money. The one thing that makes me not think she just got off is that I know her probably conservative husband is going to be embarrassed about her behavior and probably cut her off financially. I've seen this happen before, and while usually I find it to be a cruel practice and a reason women should work here by themselves, this time I would not see it as all bad. She learned a woman can own a business and that the jail is not a fun place to be, considering most of the women that end up there, and I know she will get a lesson once she get home. I also made sure she was never allowed in my store again, which I think is for the better since I doubt she had plans to buy anything anyway. And the next one is an I don't work here lady story. And by the way, let me know in the comments whether you prefer r/I don't or r/I do work here lady, which is where the title story was from. And while you're at it, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments if you want to show your support. So I live in a rural farming town, and this happened at the local feed store. Think like Tractor Supply, but a mom and pop owned version. I went to get my usual stuff, chicken feed, dog food, etc., and had my 5-year-old daughter with me. She is looking at the horse riding equipment as she is dying to start lessons, so I walk over and we start discussing what she likes and what she needs to start when a lady comes over and just starts talking about horses. I admittedly know nothing but assumed that she was just an excited fellow equestrian who overheard my daughter and I, but then she starts asking for recommendations on stuff, and I admit I'm not an expert and she might need to ask someone else. Well, this lady gave me the dirtiest look and went on and on about how employees should be knowledgeable about their products. Completely oblivious to what she was hinting at, I give a polite chuckle and say, yeah, the family that owns this place is great and they would be more helpful than me, I guess. She again suggests that employees should be knowledgeable about their products in store and asks me for a specific type of rain, and I again suggested getting someone else as I'm just here with my daughter picking up a few things. She looks down at my daughter and back up at me and says, I didn't know the feed store doubled as a daycare. You shouldn't be allowed to bring such a small child to work. Absolutely dumbfounded, I say, I don't work here and I'm just letting my daughter get her excitement out by looking at the products in the aisle we were in. Again, I suggest asking an actual employee because the family who owns the shop is terrific and has been in business for decades. With a very snotty look, she says, I know you work here. I've seen you here almost every time I come in. You must be having a day off, but you could at least help me. I ducked out of the conversation to chase my daughter, who wandered off and get checked out. As I'm leaving the store and giving county gossip with the clerk, who's a friend of mine, the lady walks up and complains about how unprofessional I am and how even for a family business, small children should not be allowed to join employees on their shift. The clerk looks at her like she's plumb dumb and tells her that our customers are welcome to bring their children in. I don't know why they wouldn't be allowed. The lady still does not get it and just huffs some more about how we are lying to her. I pick up my hat, have it loaded in the truck, and as I'm driving off, this lady flipped me the bird. I'm still confused how someone who frequents the only feed store in the county that's been running for decades and thinks there's some wild conspiracy going on about me working there. Gave me a good chuckle though. And the next one is another I don't work here lady story. So my wife and I are at Walmart having a heated exchange with the invisible forces that keep raising the price on butter when we hear this dude yelling from further down the dairy aisle. We use all our cunning to pretend like we are super interested in the cottage cheese so we could sneak close. Now, of course, I missed what had happened initially, but the guy had yelled, I don't work here. So of course I thought I was about to see some Karen moment happening between him and this tiny woman he was facing down. Instead though, the woman says, "I understand you don't work here. I just thought maybe you would reach the milk for me, but if you can't, that's fine." Well, instead of acknowledging her request, the guy goes, "What makes you think I work here? I don't work here." She apologizes for upsetting him and then begins to climb her 5'0" self up the side of the dairy case in an effort to get some almond milk. Well, luckily, an associate quickly scuttled over and grabbed her the milk, but this dude just cannot let it rest. He actually demands the actual employee tell her he doesn't work there. For his part though, the employee must have heard what was happening because even he said, "No one is saying you work here, sir. I think she just thought you would help because you're tall." "Well, I don't work here, so I don't have to," he rebuttals. Yes, that's fine, the employee says before excusing himself from this moron. The woman thanks the worker, and even as she's walking away, the guy's still just fuming. I expected him to keep yelling, but he storms off. I felt sort of sad that no one had called the manager, like I thought I had finally witnessed the level of BS people are always talking about on here. Instead though, from the second I got home, I've been watching this subreddit eagerly expecting this dude to make a post where he lied his ass off and I could call him out on it. Well, that doesn't seem to be happening, so I thought I would just post it myself. Also, before anyone asks, both him and this woman were clearly white, so I doubt this was a racial thing. And the next one is another I don't work here lady story. Last week or so, I was doing a supply run at the local Costco for our food truck, and I still had my hat and hairnet on since I was returning to the truck with the rather small haul. It was a busy day, and I picked what turned out to be the slowest line. And instead of sitting there watching old folks count out change, I decided to grab a hot dog and a soda. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes, in which time the first of 3 old folks only just finished paying for the next to scan through and take forever. So this lady who's behind where I left my cart for less than 5 minutes starts going off, "Do you work here? Why would you just go off like that and leave your cart in line?" I just sort of shrug it off since the line is basically still not moving, and she throws in a, "It must be nice to have all the time in the world to do whatever you want, huh?" I thought she must have been joking, surely, and I just missed it, so I tried to joke back, "I'm sure you could grab a hot dog too. This is probably the slowest line here." Humor was apparently the exact wrong response because this woman immediately gets irate and spits, "Does your supervisor know you were holding up the line? What kind of unprofessional a-hole just wanders off and leaves their cart sitting in line?" I look at this lady like she is speaking ancient Egyptian, and the line had not even moved in the time it took me to hit the food court some 10 car lengths away from the sedentary till. There was still an entire person with full cart in front who themselves doesn't yet have the room to start unloading onto the checkout belt. Finally, I hit her with a, "No, I don't work here, lady." To which she flippantly replies, "Of course not, the employees here are not a-holes who would do such a stupid thoughtless thing and hold up the line for their own selfishness." Well, by now the cashier has started taking notice, as well as the beggar, since watching this lady make a scene is probably more entertaining than yet another old person counting out the exact change. I'm still dumbfounded though, is this lady dense? The line has not even moved at all. But before I can point that fact out to her, she unloads with a, "Where do you work? I want to tell your boss about how much of an a-hole you are in public. Whoever you work for, you're making them look bad." What, even the F? Obviously not, if you cannot tell who I even work for, regardless of whatever I might have done. Well, her BS continues and I just try and ignore it, but it's literally damn near half an hour of this crap as we wait to be checked out. I meanwhile only have 2 large items in the cart, so it's a quick scan and card to pay, not even 3 minutes next to the 30 that the 2 ahead of me took. But she crowns off with a, "Why would you do such an a-hole thing, huh? Why do you do such inconsiderate things?" Honestly, this BS has been going on so long that I've basically had time to shower thought up the perfect clap back, so why not? I lean over the front of her cart, gripping it tightly, put the smuggest, most a-hole look on my face that I can twist up and just say, "Just to ruin your day, Karen, I got out of bed today and was just waiting for an opportunity to make you in particular miserable." Before she can process that, I grab my cart and start rolling off, watching her go beet red in the face with pure, unadulterated rage. I basically said exactly what that kind of person feels. I confirmed without a hint of sarcasm in my tone that my goal in life was to make her miserable, but I guess being right did not satisfy her like she wanted. The cashier and beggar looked like they were both holding back laughter as I looked over my shoulder to watch her silent meltdown. However, the only thing she could muster was yelling "A-hole" at me, to which I dropped a quick "Up yours, Karen," and rolled off like a smug jackass, knowing I'd probably be living rent-free in that woman's head for a good while. As someone who works in food service, it was super cathartic to get to clap back consequence-free. Context, by the way, long story short, health recs say you gotta have proper PPE to go in the kitchen in the back. This means hat and hairnet. Not wanting to fuss with getting long hair back into headgear, I always leave that on, but leave the jacket in the truck when running an end-of-day restock. Let's continue with the next one, which is an Am I the A-hole story. My daughter Ruby is 12. Recently she has gotten into the original Star Trek show as well as the Next Generation. Ruby is also a big reader and has started to collect a few of the old Star Trek books that she finds in used bookstores and thrift stores. These books usually cost anywhere from 50 cents to a couple of dollars. My nanny, Tessa, female 22, hangs out with Ruby most days after she gets out of school. Tessa has been our nanny for over a year now, and she and Ruby get along great. Tessa is big into thrifting and will often keep an eye out for the books Ruby wants. This is not typically a problem, and Ruby always pays Tessa back for the books using her allowance. The problem occurred when Tessa went on a family vacation out west. Apparently, she went thrifting during this trip and found some books for Ruby. She texted Ruby asking her if she wanted the books, and Ruby said yes. Well, Tessa returned yesterday with a stack of about 35 books and told Ruby they cost 50 bucks. Ruby does not have this much money and told Tessa. Tessa then asked me if I would cover the cost. I said no, as Tessa had never asked me about buying Ruby the books, nor was I aware of the conversation between the two of them. Tessa got upset and I asked Ruby to show me the text, which made no mention of price or even the amount of books she was buying. Tessa only said that she found some books for Ruby. Ruby is on the autism spectrum and doesn't read between the lines. You have to be very literal with her. Previously, Tessa has never bought Ruby more than 1 or 2 books at a time, so I told her that she could have clarified with Ruby regarding the amount or double-checked with me before purchasing, and that I would not be paying the 50 bucks. Tessa said she couldn't return the books because they came from the thrift store. I stood firm in my decision and reiterated that she should have asked me first. Tessa left and Ruby is now very upset. I know Tessa is a student and does not have a ton of money, so am I the a-hole for not paying Tessa for the books? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you think that OP is the a-hole for not paying Tessa or not? Comment number 1, sometimes it's better to salvage an important relationship than to be right. Pay for the books, let Tessa know that you cannot do so in the future though, without talking about it. Tell her how much you appreciate her thoughtfulness now and always. Comment number 2, you are the a-hole. Jesus, you are stingy. You are blessed with a very thoughtful nanny who thinks of your child even when she's not at work. There was a misunderstanding about the cost. All you had to do was behave decently, was pay her and ask her to please confirm amounts with Ruby in the future, and that if it happens again, you won't be able to pay for it. Comment number 3, everyone sucks here. Tessa for not double checking that you would cover the 50 bucks for your own daughter to read, and you for not covering a lousy 50 bucks for your own daughter's reading passion. If I were you, I would suck it up and pay the 50 bucks stat, or someone is going to scoop up your really thoughtful nanny very soon. I'm thinking of hiring her and I don't even have kids at home. I just want someone to thrift books for me. Update edit, because some people are asking, I'm a single parent to Ruby, and while 50 bucks will not make or break the bank, it's definitely an unexpected expense. I provide Tessa with an extra amount of money each month to spend on whatever she wants to do with Ruby, movies, the mall, etc. If she wanted to spend this fund on books for Ruby, that would have been totally fine, but she had already used it up. Edit. I definitely didn't expect this post to blow up overnight. I'm gonna add more context. For those of you who are asking how I can afford a nanny for Ruby and still have 50 bucks be a large unexpected expense, I don't pay for Tessa's services. Because Ruby is on the spectrum, she's entitled to benefits from our state, including care. The agency I work with pays Tessa. I'm not involved in that process. Update, I appreciate everyone's valuable insight into the situation. I've seen a few comments hinting to me about the fact that I don't support my daughter's reading habit. Please know this is definitely not the case. We are both big readers and frequent patrons of our local library. I'm always supportive of Ruby getting new books. I talked to Tessa and told her that I appreciate her for thinking of Ruby, apologized for the misunderstanding and have paid her for the books. We had a chat about expectations in the future, and I don't think this will happen again. I've also talked to Ruby and we agreed that I would hold on to the books and she would pay me for them as she wishes. It's important to me that Ruby learns how to handle her finances appropriately, and we decided that she will get 2 new books every week. She reads very quickly. After reading through your perspective on the matter, I agree that it's better in the long run to lose the money and salvage the relationship between the three of us, and had not considered all the implications of doing otherwise. Lesson learned. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.